What's up everyone, and thank you for stopping by the channel. Today's project is this Stihl backpack blower, and the problem is that it was picked up from a garage sale and I was told that it doesn't start. Let's take a good look at it, find out what's wrong with it, and hopefully we can fix it. In this video, we try and repair this blower. However, it may not be the exact repair you need to make to yours. We'll explore other options later in the video. The first thing I want to do is try and start it, and depending on what it does and doesn't do, we can then decide what the next step is. Now, there is still some fuel in the tank, which is probably a bit stale, but it's more than likely the fuel that was in it when it didn't start. Now, I will change out the fuel later on as we try to get it to start. There isn't a primer bulb, which means it's going to be a bit of a pain to start, as we just have to choke it and pull it till it tries to start. Now, I don't want to flood the engine, so I'll unchoke the carburetor and pull the rope a few more times. It didn't even try and start, so now I'm curious if the engine has enough compression for it to run. Now, when pulling the rope, I can feel the engine fight back on each compression stroke, but I would like to give that feeling an actual number. To figure out a number, I'm going to use a compression tester to see how worn out the engine is. If it's under 50, it may be tough to start, so I'd like to see a number over 50 psi, and the higher the better. Just screw it into the spark plug hole and then pull the rope a few times. So the number is about 75 psi, which is completely respectable for its age. That means we should have enough compression for it to start and run. The next thing I want to do is check that it has spark. And to do that, replace the spark plug and use a spark checker that installs inline to the plug. Pull the rope a few times and watch for an orange glow in the tester. And fortunately for us, we do have spark. Now, before I go on, I want to remove the spark arrestor screen and check to make sure it's not clogged with carbon. For this model, all we have to do is remove a spring clamp on the muffler outlet and pull out the screen. If we look at the screen, you can see right through it, so it's definitely not clogged, so we'll reinstall it back onto the muffler. Now, this won't usually keep a machine from starting, but it will affect the way it runs. Let's move on to the air filter and check to make sure it's not wet with fuel or completely clogged with dirt. If it was, then no air would flow through it, and that would keep the engine from starting. Okay, so the filter isn't wet or even dirty. In fact, it looks like it was recently replaced. Even the pre-filter is really clean, so this isn't our problem either. So the last thing I want to look at is the fuel in the tank, and to get a good look at it, I'll drain it out. Okay, the color of the fuel is pretty good, and that means there's more than enough oil in it. It kind of smells like gas, but it's beginning to smell a bit more like paint thinner. Also, if we take a closer look, we can see it's kind of cloudy even after letting it settle for a few minutes. I think this is our main problem. The best way to find out is to replace it with some fresh fuel and try starting it again. Before we do that, check to make sure that the fuel filter is still connected to the line in the tank. Ours is, so we're good to continue. If it was off the line, then we would have to remove the carburetor and clean the inlet screen. It's going to be clogged with debris and not letting fuel flow through the carburetor. So that definitely seems to be the problem. Now remember, gasoline doesn't have a long shelf life, so some equipment won't run on it if it has some age on it. Now it was blowing a lot of blue smoke out of the muffler, but it should clear up after revving the engine a few times. So the smoke cleared up, which is great news, but the problem is after running the engine and inspecting the spark plug, its color shows it a bit lean on fuel. Now the curved ground strap is a bit white in color, and continued running might cause the engine to overheat. And to deal with that, I'm going to adjust the carburetor for more fuel. The problem is that this type of carburetor has limiter caps that have to be removed so we can adjust it more than it's allowing us. To do that, I'm going to insert a wood screw into either of the red caps and then try pulling the limiters off the carburetor. Well, that worked out better than I expected it to. Now, I could take off the other red cap off the L screw, but it doesn't matter as I only want to make adjustments to the H screw right now. I want the carburetor to deliver more fuel, so I'll turn it counterclockwise about a quarter turn. Another reason why your blower might not be starting is that the engine is flooded. The reason the engine is flooding is because the carburetor is putting too much fuel into the engine on the first pull. After that, every pull floods it more and more, and it will never start until you unflood it. The fix for that would be to adjust the carburetor to deliver the right amount of fuel so it starts properly, or replace the carburetor. So my question is, how long do you keep fuel in your blower? Do you stabilize your fuel and keep it in your tank all year long, or do you run it dry every season? Now, I always keep fuel in my blower all year long, but I use it so much that it's always got fresh fuel in it, except for about 3 months of the year. You know what I do, but I'm more curious about what you do. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask any questions, and I hope to see you in my next video.